Walking meditation breaks the pattern of post-traumatic stress disorder. Survivors of war, domestic abuse, and child abuse are prime candidates to endure the rigors of post-traumatic stress disorder. Dr. Tom Hartman, PhD, wrote a wonderful book on the subject known as Walking Your Blues Away. And in it, he describes the chief culprit of PTSD being our hippocampus over yonder. Our hippocampus functions as a doorman. Go to a club, there's a well-dressed gentleman with a clipboard standing behind a velvet rope, telling you that you can't get in unless you're pretty enough, rich enough, or your name is on the list. Here is how trauma works. Our body, our central nervous system perceives circumstances. It perceives them visually, auditorily, physically, sensually, gustorally, and olfactorily. When those perceptions are processed by the hippocampus into long-term memory, we experience them as a past. It may be an unpleasant past, maybe a sad past, maybe a scary past, maybe an infuriating past, but it is the past. When, for whatever reason, our hippocampus fails to process a perception, then our body treats that perception as a present moment experience. When something that was traumatic is experienced over and over and over and over again, it's not a psychological dysfunction. It's a psychological symptom of a physiological process where the hippocampus is not permitting that traumatic event to be stored in long-term memory. So our job is to soothe our own hippocampus in the most effective and sustainable method. To do that, we're going to implement the metaphoric magic of relaxed, strolling meditation. When we are in turmoil, the time when we are in turmoil is the wrong time to try to cross a busy intersection. I therefore recommend that when we are in great turmoil, that we limit the route of our walking meditation to simply our own block. Walk around the block. If a neighbor wants to know what's going on, just tell them, hey man, I'm working through some PTSD with walking meditation. What are they going to say? Don't do that. If someone responds to our vulnerability with vulnerability, they're probably a good candidate to be a friend. If someone responds to our vulnerability with predation, then it's okay to love them, but just love them from afar, because they're probably not good for you, especially when you're working through stuff. So for instance, if a neighbor asks you, what are you doing? And you say, I'm working through some PTSD with some walking meditation, and they want to get into your story, thank them for their interest, but be on your way. 9 times out of 10, they are not your fully qualified, licensed psychologist who specializes in PTSD. Even if they were, that would not be the time to discuss it. Thank them for their concern, but be on your way. Now, if for whatever reason we feel unsafe walking around our block, maybe it's because we're women and 50% of Earth's population has a very bad track record of treating us horribly, or because it's dark, or because we're scared of bad guys, or because we're scared of cops, but then I repeat myself, then I urge you to acquire the type of treadmill that will allow you to swing your arms freely and with abandon. The only danger you will incur from that is facing the judgment of your pets. As long as you feed them, they'll forgive you for being weird. Strolling or walk, I use the term stroll, the technical term is walk, but so many of us have been influenced by fitness culture to think, well, if I'm walking, I better break a sweat and do it as fast as I can. Or we have been conditioned by patriarchy to think, oh no, I've got to take slow, mincing steps and concentrate on my feet. Both are incorrect. Walk naturally. Allow your body and breath to determine your speed. We are already wired to walk. When we step forward with our left foot, our right arm swings forward, and vice versa. Doing this is deliciously asymmetrical. Consequently, it acts as a form of asymmetric stimulation on our hippocampus, kind of like a biochemical or a bioelectric massage of the part of our brain that's acting like a cranky doorman. So it's kind of like, imagine a cranky doorman dressed impeccably, but with a scowl and a clipboard, and now the woman of his dreams, who he happens to work with, saunters up behind him and starts kneading his shoulders. He's going to be a lot more relaxed and groovy. Similarly, our leisurely walking meditation is going to help us it's going to help our hippocampus to be much more groovy and at long last, process our trauma. And if you have and there is trauma that comes from a single event, and then there's complex trauma that comes from a series of events over a period of time. This will work with that as well. To turbocharge your stroll. Oh yes, I must say, if we're going to walk, give yourself permission to walk for 20 or 40 or 60 minutes. I promise you, by the time you're done, you will feel much less shitty. To turbocharge the experience, blend it with mindfulness and meditation, wherein during our inhalation, we silently and mentally recite the verb watch, and during our exhalation, we silently and mentally recite the verb rest. Do this for half the time you intend to walk. For the second half of the time, switch gears to feel rest. We'll go into greater detail in a few minutes about how these work. But they work really, really well. Not only this verbiage, but this sequence works really well. Now, is this a panacea? No. Is this a substitute for qualified counseling? No. But I want to take a moment to discuss qualified counseling. A personal coach is not going to help you. A personal coach with your exact same life experience is not going to help you. Find a qualified professional who's built their entire practice, whose entire specialty, who thinks 24 hours a day, 7 days a week about your specific issue, and work with them. Meditation is not a replacement for therapy. It is an adjunct, a very useful one, a very potent one, but an adjunct nonetheless. All right, this concludes our opening lesson. This is the Dzogchen Semde Lama Jigme Gyatso of the Buddha Joy Meditation School. For multiple decades, I spent about 8 hours a day, almost every day, studying, practicing, mastering, and reverse engineering the teachings and techniques of each school of meditation so that I could be of service to you. It is Yoda early Monday morning. Come, let us meditate like a Jedi. The moment you have a specific question about the philosophies or techniques that support meditation, do not hesitate to type your question in great detail in the chat window, for I tend to check for questions about once every 15 minutes or so. We're going to divide our meditation session into two categories or two techniques. For the first technique, it can be useful for us to gently invite our real or imagined subtle energy to coalesce at our crown. The easiest way for us to do that is to practice Pasadi Mudra, or meditation gesture, wherein we use the tip of our left index finger to support the lower knuckle of our right index finger, palms up in our lap. This is a very useful technique. It's useful for when we feel like we are on the very edge of a meltdown. It is useful for every night when we go to bed and lie down and prepare to fall asleep. And it's also useful when we are in the process of dying, when we are preparing to depart to the undiscovered territories. I'm rather fond of Bengali crease counting. I found it's useful to work with it in sets of 13, which is really 1 plus 12, to keep track of our one repetition of, let me rephrase this. To keep track of our one inhalation, wherein we passively, well, let me rephrase this. As we passively notice air enter our nostrils, let us silently and mentally recite the verb watch. And as we passively notice air exit our nostrils, let us silently and mentally recite the verb rest. Good. For our single repetition of this, we keep track by touching the tip of our left index finger to the lower knuckle of our right index finger. Now, I mentioned that we practice in terms of 1 plus 12. So the next 12 rounds we're going to count on our right hand. So I'm going to adjust the camera. And here's how it works. Every time we silently and mentally recite the verb watch during our inhalation, we advance our right thumb, beginning with the lower set of creases on our right little finger, and concluding with the upper set of creases on our right index finger. Together as a team, let us practice right now. Some teachers make meditation very complex and difficult. Others are so cryptic and oversimplistic in their instruction that it feels impossible. So it's my intention to present you with instructions that are the happy medium, the midpoint between those two extremes. Counting this 1 plus 12, these 1 plus 12 repetitions takes just a little bit more than a minute to therefore, if we wish to meditate for about 14 minutes, it could be useful to count additional sets of 1 plus 12 repetitions. Therefore, let us shift our attention to our left thumb and touch it to the lower set of creases of our left little finger. And now keep track of our 1 repetition of watch rest. To keep track of our next collection of 12 repetitions of watch rest, we return to our right hand. Let us return our attention to our left hand. And in order to keep track of our next single repetition of watch rest, let us advance our left thumb to the next set of creases. Now that you get the basic idea of how to count multiple sets of 1 plus 12 repetitions each, let us rest our hands palms up in our lap. Let us explore how meditation is not something spooky or supernatural, but merely an act of neurological hygiene. The more we overfocus or overanalyze, the more we so exhaust both our medial and dorsolateral prefrontal cortices, and that it triggers our amygdala, the seat of both anxiety and aggression. Not a fun way to spend our lives. However, if we set aside a few minutes every 12 hours or so to passively cooperate with our own autonomic nervous system, not only will we calm the anxiety and aggression of our amygdala, but will gently stimulate our anterior cingulate gyrus, which functions as the hub of our mirror neurons, the seat of empathy. Sounds pretty cool. How do we do that? We do that by practicing mindfulness and meditation. But how does meditation work? Every time we exhale, whether we know it or not, we have evolved to automatically access both the tippy top and the very bottom of our spinal cord. These two regions, working as a team, function as the core of our parasympathetic nervous system, one half of our autonomic nervous system. It has evolved. This half has evolved to help us to physically relax during our exhalation to such a degree that which we watched during our previous inhalation could fleetingly feel less stressful, less permanent, less defining, and even as non-graspable as a vast empty void. Whether we're working with the simile of not self or no self, or the simile of emptiness, it would seem that a simile is only as effective as it is relatable. Therefore, we must ask the question, what? What is a real-world example of a non-graspable, vast empty void? How about the illusion of the infinite azure sky on a bright and beautiful cloudless morn, which although could look tantalizing to the eye, could feel non-graspable to the hand? And now we shift gears. From watching and resting to feeling and resting. To facilitate that, we're going to gently invite our real or imagined subtle energies to coalesce in our chest. We do this not because of magic, but because it simply supports our body in the rigorous activity of active sitting. To facilitate this coalescence, I recommend using the Sati Mudra or mindfulness gesture, which is as simple as using, we adjust the camera, which is as simple as using the tip of our left middle finger to support the lower knuckle of our right middle finger, palms up in our lap. This gesture, assuming this gesture, helps us keep track of a single repetition of feeling and resting. Allow me to elaborate. As we passively notice our chest swelling with breath, we can silently and mentally recite the verb feel. As we passively notice our chest subtly sinking as gently we exhale, we can silently and mentally recite the verb rest. To keep track of our next 12 sets, repetitions of feeling and resting, let us draw our attention to our right hand. Every time we silently and mentally recite the verb feel, let us advance our right thumb across our fingers, beginning with the lower set of creases of our right little finger, concluding with the higher set of creases of our right index finger. Together, let us practice right now. To keep track of our next single repetition of feeling and resting, we can turn our attention to our left hand. Place the tip of our left thumb on the lower set of creases of our left little finger. To keep track of our next set of 12 rounds of feeling and resting, we return our attention to our right hand. To keep track of our next single repetition of feeling and resting, let us advance our left thumb. And now that we understand how we can keep track of multiple sets of 12 inhalations each, let us rest our hands palms up in our lap. If this Bengali crease counting seems ungainly, remember, it is only repetition that is the mother of skill. Come to these live streams once every 12 hours, and within a week or two, this entire system you could master. I already explained to you that by passively cooperating with our autonomic nervous system, not only could we let me rephrase it. I already explained to you that by cooperating with our autonomic nervous system, not only is the anxiety and aggression of our amygdala calmed, but the empathy of our anterior cingulate gyrus is gently stimulated. We already talked about how the autonomic nervous system is comprised of two parts. Let's turn our attention to the sympathetic nervous system through the mechanism of mindfulness. You see, every time we inhale, whether we know it or not, we have evolved to automatically access the middle bit of our spinal cord, which functions as the core of our sympathetic nervous system, the second half of our autonomic nervous system. It has evolved to help us to vulnerably, passively, viscerally, randomly, and fleetingly notice all mind's antics of perception, emotion, intention, cognition, recollection, and imagination. All of them. From the external to the internal, from the physical to the mental, from the pleasurable to the painful, from the interesting to the boring, from the convenient to the arduous, from the glorious to the grotesque. Contrary to the ravings of those who are rigid and controlling, there are no thoughts that harm us. As we relax into our exhalation, whatever pleasure or pain we noticed during our previous inhalation could feel as if it was melting into the simplicity of just sensation. As we relax into our exhalation, whatever happiness or joy, anxiety or peace we felt during our previous inhalation could feel as if it was melting into the simplicity of just emotion. What makes us good or bad is not what we feel, but what we do with what we feel. What then is goodness? The more we sit and breathe and feel and rest, the more we can't help but automatically stimulate our anterior cingulate gyrus, which causes us to involuntarily practice kind intention, kind communication, kind conduct, and kind commerce. This is the essence of morality. But how are we to know what the kind thing is? Simple. The more we sit and breathe and feel and rest, the more our choices, utterances, and deeds flow. Not from contrived calculations, nor from wild scatterness, but instead from love's deeply centered spontaneity. This is known by many words or phrases. Some describe it as right effort. Some describe it as effortless effort. Some describe it as wu wei. Some describe it as actionless action or doing without doing. Some describe it as going with the flow. Some describe it as being in the zone. Some describe it as expedient means. Some describe it as Tathagata Gautama or Buddha nature. All of this is unlocked simply by sitting and breathing and feeling and resting once every 12 hours or so. Good morning. I can't hear you. I think it's because of the microphone that I'm using. Here we go. How can you? I can hear you now.
How are you? You okay?
I am doing great. I'm leading a group meditation. Would you like to meditate with us?
I don't do meditation, but I don't know if the chat wants to. We can just watch you. It's fine. We can do that. I want to watch you. It's fine.
Okay.
I'm
It's simple.
down for it.
All I'm doing is sitting, and when I feel my body breathe in, I'm reciting the verb feel. And when I feel my body breathe out, I'm reciting the verb rest. That's it. It's idiot proof. You have taken your first step into a much larger world. If you feel that I have earned it, you could give this live stream a thumbs up. You could even help support this channel. For Meditate Like a Jedi is made possible thanks to the generosity of viewers just like you. In approximately 11 hours, I would very much like to return to lead today's dusk practice of Meditate Like a Jedi. And if you are as geeky as me, may the Force be with you always.